Hello, this is B Sneeze with a special guest, my first interview of the channel. Oh my gosh. I wanted to get some videos under my belt before I got people on. Um, but this is going to be a pretty common thing, especially when I travel. I want to get as many people on as I can, but they're probably not going to be in my room unless I like kidnap them and take them back for legal reasons. That's a joke. But yeah, so I wanted to get my dad on because he is a very big motivation for me even starting this channel. And he has a pretty successful Japanese podcast of his own called Lost Without Japan. If you want to talk about that for a little bit.
Sure, it's one of those things that like I had so many different podcasts that I followed that were based on Japan, and it seemed like most of the listeners for the shows that I was into were people that wanted to move to Japan or were past like jet members. So they taught in Japan and they left and went back stateside, and this is their way to connect. Or it's those of us that are still waiting to move to Japan in a way to kind of feel connected with different people. Like some of the early podcasts, like Japanophiles was one that I listened to a while ago. Japan 2.0, who we got to sit down with in Osaka.
Very cool guys, I can confirm.
Yes, Matt and David are just amazing, people. Jeff with Deep in Japan. Like, there's so many different people that I connected with before even starting my own show, and I realized, like, why not? And I wanted to point out to people that there's more to Japan than Tokyo, and there's more to Japan than Kyoto and Osaka. There's just so much. So a lot of what I do right now is like every other episode is a day trip, and it's a day trip to locations that you wouldn't go to normally outside of like your first trip. It'd take a couple to get there, but I hope that people will add some of this to like where you're going, because there's a lot of internal, I shouldn't say a lot, but there is internal like negativity to tourists. And it's not just overseas tourists, it's just people that don't live in that area within Japan that are showing up. So if you can go out to these areas that are in dire need of your money, you're gonna get so many great occurrences. You're gonna make some friends, maybe find the place that you want to move to, and it's just going to be like what you're going to like to. And the other half of mine are doing interviews, and as a result of doing interviews for my show, I've started to have like a large group of people that I know like all throughout Japan. So it's like
very impressive.
Like when I move there one day, I'm gonna have people that I'm gonna be like, hey, I got friends here, I go visit, or whatever it is. But it's been going on 3 years this summer that I'll be doing that show every other week, except for 1 week where it slid. But in 3 years, I hope people would forgive me. But yeah, I'm on Instagram at just Lost Without Japan, and just happy to see my son actually taking this, what is he doing, and not just being an audio only portion of the show. But other than that, like, yeah, that's the bulk of the show, and just trying to get back to Japan as many times as I can, and a bit jealous that you're going to beat me this time.
Big announcement. I haven't talked about it yet. I talked about buying the tickets, but I have officially secured my tickets back to Japan later this year. I'm not going to give the exact dates because I don't want to be stalked and killed. But I will be going, and you will be coming with me, and I will record a lot. I'm not going to, like, I'm trying not to make it my intention when I'm going, because I want to obviously experience and enjoy as much as I can. But I want to at least have a few people on, my friends that I made last time, or friends that I will make this time, because I know I'll meet a ton of people. But I'm just excited to get back and experience more of the things that I wasn't able to last time, like Kyoto. But also I'm planning on going to Sapporo, going back to Hiroshima. There's so many different places that I'm going to, and like my dad was talking about a little bit, half the fun when I've gone is going to places that, I would say more than half the fun, but going to places that were off the beaten path, and that's what I'm kind of planning to do. I'm not planning to go to like Universal again, as fun as it was. I'm not planning to go to Universal again. I'm not planning to go to like the super tourist traps, although I'm probably going to try to go to like Ghibli Museum and Kichijoji, because I love Kichijoji. It's just an excuse to go back. Yeah, my dad has been very, whether I hold it against him as a bad thing or a good thing, he has been a very big motivator for me, even being in Japan. If it weren't for the trip we did last year, I don't know what I'd even be doing right now, because it helped me kind of have a direction. And I'm learning Japanese, and I'm going back to Japan, and I could not have done it without him, obviously. So I appreciate him very much.
I do too, and I think that kind of stemmed from you could almost thank your grandpa in the fact that when he traveled to Japan, it was back in 1983 and 1985, and he worked for a tire company called Bridgestone, which, like, now you say Bridgestone and a lot of people are going to know that tire brand, but back in the 80s it was not well known in the US. In fact, it was pretty much no one had heard of it. So he got to travel to Japan for a month at a time in 83 and 85 and train there and go there. And this is, as hard as it is to believe, pre-internet, pre smartphones and things. So he has all these different stories and things for the time that he went. But when he came back, you go to Japan today, and if you see something in the store, you still want to buy it because you may not be able to find it. But chances are, if you see something that's cool there, you can also buy it on the internet. But like back in 83 and 85, when you bought something there, you'd have it like a full year in advance before it actually made it here. So like one of the things that happened is, like, my dad brought back Transformers before the Transformers were here. And like I remember showing it off to my friends at school and everyone just being like, this is a joke. Like, what is this? Like, who would think this is cool? And like a year later, everybody's like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And this probably, you'd have to look this up, my friends, but it's Teddy Ruxpin, and it's this bear that you could put a cassette tape into, and it was animatronic, and it would move, and it would do like these stories and stuff. But at the time, it was pretty cool stuff. So ahead of the time, and my sister got that like a year before it made it stateside. So like my dad would come back with all of these stories and all of these different things, and I didn't realize, I guess how much that impacted me, like with travel and things like that, but it did. And so like when I was finally able to go like in with Fulbright, there was 2 teachers from every state that was picked to go. There was 100 of us. And I went back in 2006, and I got to tell you, like, I loved Japan prior to that trip, but that like month that I got to spend there and tour around and go to elementary schools and go to high schools, and go to colleges and meet people, that like cemented it to me. And I was like, I need to go back. And I'm so happy that, I had this huge gap. It was like 2006 when I went, and I didn't go back again until 2017. And you went, and you're going back. You know what I mean? So, like, fortunately for you, like, you've got this, and, I'll be going back too. But I just remember, like, even when you were, little, and your sister as well, that, like, we'd go do Mitsuya, which is like the Arlington Heights Japanese marketplace and food court, and we go do like dance things and drums and food experiences and stuff, and it's just like you've grown up with that, like your whole life. So
it's so funny because I've known it my entire life. We always watched Ghibli movies. Like that was, we watched Disney too, but that was like a very huge part of my life. Japanese food we always got. I remember it's not related, but my parents lied to me in order to get me to drink water because they didn't have enough apple juice. They'd call it Japanese water to get me to drink it. So they from the beginning, from us going to Mitsuya, like you said, watching anime, watching Pokemon. I remember Last Exile I watched with my dad. Like all these really good memories. Like before it was cool, way before it was cool. Like I played Pokemon and got made fun of and stuff like that, and now everyone's like, oh, I watch anime, yeah, I watch anime, like, man, where were you? But like 10 years ago when I was getting made fun of. But it's awesome because it's becoming so popular now. Like Japanese culture is popping up everywhere. There's boba stores. I know that's not expressly Japanese, but Asian culture in general is booming. So it's so cool for my dad to kind of have been ahead of the curve. And no, I'm very appreciative to have that in my entire life. So Japan means so much to me, and it means so much to him. How old were you when you really knew, like, because I know you went on the trip. How old were you when you really knew, like, Japan would even be, like, somewhere you'd want to go? Was it before, like, how long before the trip, your first trip?
I want to say, like, I applied 3 different times to go to Japan through Fulbright, and I knew I wanted to go, but like I didn't know how to get there. There were different experiences, like even when I went to COD myself, they had like you could go to Japan with the school as part of an experience. But at the time, it was way more money than my parents had, and it was more money that I could come up with that point in time, because I was paying for, all of my school. I was working, helping my mom out, with things too. So like I had all this stuff. So I don't think it was really realistic until I got to the point that, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start applying to go.
Yeah.
And I got 2 rejection letters and was at a point of like, I don't know that I'm going to apply to do this again. I think I would have made it like eventually to Japan, but like a matter of when. And if it wasn't for your mom like saying, hey, let's do this one more time. This means so much to you. I can tell it means so much to you. Like really put like your all again into this, knowing you could be rejected like one more time. But man, like when I read that letter of acceptance and I was going, and finding out that like they spent, the Fulbright, like Japanese government spent, I want to say between $30,000 to maybe like $40,000 a person for us to be here for that month of time. And all they asked in return is like for us to speak about the Japanese culture, the places, and just show people about this stuff. And I think they've got their money worth potentially.
Yeah, just me alone.
That's right. Going on like
So
20...
that's why.
That's right.
That's why it was.
I had to bring them one son. That's all they knew of
the sacrifice. Your firstborn.
It's like, okay, it's worth it. The truth comes out now.
Oh, now I see.
But yeah, like one of the things that means the most to me, besides you and your sister, is like Japan. So like if I had anybody that means anything to me, I would want to share Japan with them, and that's like a huge deal to me. So like when you and I were able to go, it almost didn't seem real that whole trip. Like 100%, like it didn't seem like a real thing. And it was amazing to know that we were there, and like that, sitting with Matt and David out in that field in Osaka, just talking was like, damn, that moment of like, we're here, we're doing this. This is, this is happening.
Yeah, that's the moment I point to as well when I realized, like, I had some major, I wouldn't say it was major culture shock, because I've known people who like for a week they're like, where am I? But when I got there, I've talked about this before, but I was running on 30 hours of no sleep, and I remember getting there and looking outside and seeing the buildings down below of the plane, and we landed and I was walking through and we got on the train and everything happened so fast, and I was like, this is, where am I? am I dreaming? And I remember it was like 7 p.m. when we were walking through, and the streets were exactly how I saw in videos, and like a weird part of my brain never even thought I'd make it here. And when I was really perceiving it, I was like, whoa, it blew me away. So it was just, it took me a while, but it was so cool. It was such a good trip, and like I said, I'm super grateful to him that I was able to go, and I'm very excited to head back and experience my own things and all that. So yeah, it's I'm very. A lot of things had to line up for us to even be talking about Japan in general, because it could have. I could have just been one of those people who like, oh, like I like anime and stuff like that, but I never would have even thought about going to Japan. And a lot of people were like that, and who ended up going to Japan. I've heard a lot of people talk about how they first went to Japan, and they just thought it was kind of a cool place, and they got the opportunity to go, and then they ended up falling in love with it. And that's why, like, kind of like my dad, I want to bring so many people with me, because it means a lot to me, and I know they would love it, because they love so much of the culture past just like the anime and past the, you know, stuff like that. And I know if they got out and saw it, it would be life changing. So that's why I really like your messages of the podcast, and what kind of motivated me to make this was that I just want to like share it with people and just encourage people to get out there. You may not realize how much it means in the moment, but once you're out there, you just keep wanting to experience more and more and more. And like I just grew addicted to it, so that's why I'm going again this year.
And you hear from so many people, and it's like, even if it's like you go to Japan and you have a blast, and you're like, you know what, now I want to go to Germany, or now I want to go to, like, you know, insert whatever place. Like, getting that love of like going out and seeing what you can see is huge. Yeah. And if it wasn't for like my return trip in like 2017, where I was able to save and do all of that different stuff, and I wish that I had done it sooner, but I'm glad that I did it at all. Because like, how many people sit there their whole life? Like, you can talk to people and they're 10 years older than me, they're 20 years older than me, whatever it is, they're like about to retire, and they're like, man, you know, I really, you know, want to do this someday. And I'm like, what's stopping you? Like, you know, even if it takes you 5, you know, years, 6 years, 7 years to save, to go, just, you know, do it. Because like, once you do it once, you're going to want to do it again. And once you're successful in doing it once, you know you can do it again and again and again. And like me, I had planned on going this summer. It's not going to be this summer. It might be like, you know, winter of later this year, or, you know, following summer. But I know I'll be going back again, and then I'm going to be saving huge to do what you and I did with, you know, Addison, so that just, you know, we can have that same experience again. And I know at some point in time, all, you know, 3 of us are going to be there together and exploring and doing its own thing. So it's just huge.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to, like, part of my message with this channel is not to like force people like, oh, you need to go to Japan, like everyone's different, everyone's gonna have their own thing, and I really want to just share how people are, like, what people are passionate about. I want to just talk to people and have them share what they like to do. And I know my dad, like, it's Japan. We can talk about baseball and stuff like that, but Japan is like his way number one. So I just love to I'd love to have more and more people on and just talk about what they're passionate about. And like, on the topic of travel too, like, it doesn't have to be Japan. Like, it can be Germany, it can be anywhere. Just like whatever you're even like remotely interested in, like, do it. I can't recommend it enough.
It's so easy to like, before I started the podcast, you know, and I was trying to go to Japan, and I was looking to do different things, and I was going, like, it's easy to get lost in the day. Like, if it's going to school, it's easy to just get lost going to school. If you're working, it's easy to just get lost in that grind of like, this is all that's happening, and it becomes, this is your world, is just you going to and from work. And I understand, like, there were times in my life that literally was all I had. You know, like, that's what I needed to do, that's where I was at, and I get it. But I wish that I would have known that if I would have taken like $10 a paycheck, $20 a paycheck, like whatever it was, or even if it's every other paycheck, like whatever it was, like, you know, just put that stuff there so eventually you could get to where you are. Because for me, having like I'm going to be going back, like some sort of time frame, if it's 2 years, whatever, it's keeps me going, it keeps me positive. And like, me finding out that I wasn't going to be going this summer like I thought I was has been like this blow of like taking me, like, I'm starting to get over it, but it's like a huge struggle with me, like, to where it's like, man, you know, this is, you know, when things are not where you want them to be, that's what keeps things going. And like before I started my podcast, I'd have people that would tell me, they're like, hey Mike, can we talk about anything that's but Japan? Has anyone ever told you that you talk about Japan too much? And and I was like, hey, no one wants to hear this anymore, Mike. So like me having a platform to do that with an audience that actually wants to hear those things is huge. And like making those friends along the way is just going to be people that eventually I'm going to be there, I'm going to move there, and having those people already there to make friends with, contact with, that's huge. And it came from just starting doing a podcast where I was doing the first 4 months of listening. I don't think I broke, it's like I broke like double digits, but I mean double digits like 12 or, like 17 people. And most of those I'm sure were like you and Baba and myself and like, like stuff that's there. So, but now like I'm getting to a point now where it's, like my downloads per month are like not what YouTube levels are and stuff, but for a podcast, like me breaking 700 people, like 700 downloads, 700 things that's there, that's huge to know that like you're making that much of an impact. Or receiving emails from people that are like, hey Mike, I'm going to be going on a trip, my first time, can you help me with this? And I've helped people like, they're going to Japan and they're like, hey, I'm just going to buy my JR pass when I'm there. And at the time of like when they did this, I'm like, no, that's not an option. I go, you can't do that. And she, the person I was talking to, they're like, well, what do I do? And we were able to look, and she was able to expedite like getting her pass, like literally right before she left. But if she had not reached out, she would have gone there like expecting to get this pass and having it cost so much more than like, what it was. Or I had a gentleman that went with his family and 2 young kids, and he was asking some questions just about like getting around and doing stuff. So like being able to impact people and have that be something I have is just like, helps me, stay positive, man, because otherwise like it's easy to get down.
Because I saw how much it meant to you to be able to have that outlet, and I was in such a funk last year when I wasn't in Japan. I was in such a funk, and like a little bit after, because I was like, oh man, I'm not in Japan. And I realized like when I went to Japan, I fell in love with Japan all over again, and I needed that outlet, and that's why I started this channel. One of the many reasons I started this channel, and to see how much you've helped people, and to see how many people you've touched, and how many people who like your show means a lot to, and like the people you've met and the people I met through your podcast that we never would have met otherwise. Really, I was like, okay, I need to do something of my own that I can talk about this and talk about things I'm passionate about, and hopefully through that I'll meet people, and that like that's another big motivation. So the fact that your podcast has grown so much, I was like, I can do this. Like I've tried and tried with YouTube so many times, and I think this time is the time where I'm like, okay, I have something here, and I just need to keep with it because I have something to share. And if people don't like it, then that's fine. But And
I don't know if it's the same for YouTube or not, but like for podcasting, a lot of shows that have like reached some sort of like critical mass or have like something to them, it's like at a 3-year mark and a 5-year mark. And it's like just a matter of being consistent to hit that point, to finally get like additional momentum, like to keep on like reaching out and doing that. And it's like I can see that in like what's happening now, and I know that if I just continue doing what I'm doing and reaching out to people, and like we have each other, you have your family, but it's great to have other people that you can like receive some sort of motivation from. Or like if you're down, like I was talking with Maurice, and I was just like, hey man, struggling a bit, I'm not going to Japan, like like all this different stuff. And he's like, just having somebody there to be like, so like what can we do, like like what can you do, like like and like getting you back on track like means a ton. So no, but I'm happy that you loved it so much when you're there. And like now I just hope that both you and Addison moved there, and that's okay. That I can. That's right. Until my long-term goal is just to have you live there. So until I move there myself, I just got a place to go, son. That's really long-term goal. Lots of years of investment.
For sure. Yeah, I'm so grateful to be able to have the opportunity to go back, because I know a lot of 22-year-olds are not able to go to Japan or like anywhere really because they're going to school, or I'm taking a very unconventional route. And the fact that I'm able to just focus this year and learn as much Japanese as I can and go back and experience and travel and experience all these things means the world to me. And the fact that my dad has allowed me to do that means so much to me, whereas I know a lot of parents would probably be telling their kids to like do something with their lives. But I'm moving towards something finally, and I'm grateful that he let me figure that out for myself. And so that's really it. That's my really cool dad, former K-pop fan account extraordinaire.
Twice K-pop in Chicago. It was huge. I'd like to think that when Twice came to Chicago the first time, it was because of that account, and they're like, Twice Chicago, why is this popping up so much? And then they got
You're
here,
the
they're
sole
like...
responsibility. They actually shouted you out mid-show. They were like, yo, shout out Twice K-pop in Chicago. But yeah, I'm very happy to have you as my first guest, and there will be many to come, but you are the pioneer. So I'll have you on, I'm sure, again sometime, but I can't thank you enough. So the closing thing I always do is Song of the Day. So I'll have my guest pick Song of the Day tonight. So what is your Song of the Day?
I have it by the artist. The song is Loa and Fururi Riho, and I slaughtered that 100%.
I'll put the links down below.
Please do. But fantastic. If you see this amazing artwork, you're in the right place.
No.
There were so many different things that I could have done, and so many different...
I was expecting a Twice song, honestly.
Well, that was a possibility too, where they had their Japanese albums they had, but that was one where I was like, let's look back through, see which ones popped up a lot for me. I think you'll all be happy with it.
Yeah. What kind of music is it?
It's kind of like a guitar-y, poppy, one, but it's just a very nice, chill. I like it. It's not full-on pop. It's not full-on rock. It's not metal.
Nice.
But it's a good time had by all. So I hope you enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you watched this far, be sure to check out his podcast if you haven't already. I'm sure
you've already subscribed.
Oh yeah. World famous. And by world I mean 700 million.
We're just living off by royalties right now. I don't even work.
That's how I'm going to Japan, man. But please check him out and support him as much as you can. He's awesome. Check out his Patreon. So thank you so much for coming on, Dad. And any last thoughts before we head out?
Just proud of you, son. Like I said, proud of you regardless of whatever it is. But I'm super excited to see what you find on your own trip. And you're gonna get wherever you are with that. But just nice to see all that you're doing with your Japanese, doing with your own show, your own things that you have that's here. But I'll say, like, for anybody that's out there, traveling on your own is like very zen, like very introspective, very lots of time with yourself. And that can be a good thing, and that can be like a bad thing. Yeah. But I'd say to anybody that's out there, doing a trip on your own can be very daunting. But if you were ever to do it and you're like, I don't know if I ever could, like, is it safe? I'm going to be by myself. Japan is the country to do it in. And not that you can't get in trouble anywhere in the world, you totally can, but I will tell you, like, going to Japan and going to some of the different areas that you are is as safe as you're going to be in that. Stay away from the Yakuza bars, stay away from the girl bars, like, stay away from anybody that tries to get you off of the street and into any establishment anywhere. Don't do it. Just say no. But the rest of Japan, you're going to meet some fabulous people, and you're going to make lifelong friends. And I'm just excited to see who you find, or who you are when you come back, because it'll be different. Like, it really is. And I think you coming back from Japan And like the momentum you have from that is just going to be something that like, you know, continues.
Yeah.
And I'd say my only suggestion to anybody out there is if you do 16 days on your own, don't do 16 days on your own unless that's like, you know, cool for you. Try to make some contact, try to meet some people, and have your trip be time up by yourself, but also time going to go with other people. And be open to some possibilities and open to doing some things with others. Like Sam went to go to a concert, made friends there, and ended up doing things with people that were there. But truly, like, for you. Like, just go be you, do you, and have a chill time. Don't feel like you need to rush from thing to thing to thing. Give yourself some time, space it out, and just, you know, see who you are when you come back.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm very honored and very excited to see, you know, my car for the endorsements for this, you know, showing up after we're done. So, but this is awesome. So
we actually made a brand deal. Last minute sponsorship. We have a brand deal with Tesla.
That's right. Nissan, like whatever.
GTR, baby, let's go.
All my kids at school are gonna think I'm so cool tomorrow.
New Fast and Furious movie.
That's right.
We're both in it. But thank you again, Dad, and thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.